Hello everyone, this is Marcel. So I was thinking the other day about some of my friends who have just gone back time and time again to the same kind of girlfriend. And every single time it blows up in their face and they break up, get divorced, and repeat the cycle all over again. So I wonder to myself, why is it that these guys keep going back to the same type of person expecting different results? And it dawned on me that there's a good possibility it's a form of addiction. And I know and I realize that a big part of what we do in biology, that is to say, all organisms do, is reproduce. So it would make sense that guys would want to keep going back. Though I noticed something interesting about the process, a bit of a similarity, if you will. Now, I'm sure most of us have heard women say that they're more tolerant to pain because of the concept of childbirth being the worst pain they've ever experienced in their life. It's something they like to push a lot. They've even gone through the trouble of designing a medical device that you can hook up to a guy that simulates contractions and shows them what it's supposed to feel like. And of course, the guy screams and flails around. The idea behind it being, see, look what women have to put up with. Well, the reason why women would go back to that horrible experience of giving birth, not to say it isn't beautiful in its own right, but it hurts. It's incredibly painful. And they do it again and again and again in some cases. Why would they ever do that? Why would they ever return to that extreme, excruciating pain? And the answer, from what I'm understanding through biology, is their brain is protected by a very potent cocktail of pleasure chemicals. They dump all of these endorphins and things into their brain naturally that kind of cushions it to where it almost feels good. And then afterwards, the brain intentionally shuts off the short-term memory receptors to where they don't recall the pain. They forget it almost instantly after the birthing is done. So, once the baby's out, they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Yeah, look at the cute kid. This was great. They forgot what it was going through, all of that. So they're willing to go back and do it again. And from a biological perspective, that makes sense. Because if they remembered how horrible it was, they wouldn't repeat it. Now, if you kind of see where I'm going with this, think of a guy, he goes through this horrible experience, but the entire time, or at least a big portion of it, his brain is dumping all of these pleasure hormones into him and dampening his ability to remember the experience. Because if he could honestly remember what he went through during that relationship, the pain, the anguish, the frustration, the struggles, would he really ever do it again a second time? And that's where I come to this kind of a conclusion that it's a drug. I know we've heard that before, but it genuinely is kind of a drug that these guys, these blue pill men, get sucked into, this perpetual pleasure versus memory versus, gratification and validation that happens through them in their minds. And they keep going back to it because they literally can't remember it, at least not in the same way. Now, there's that old, good old days memory concept where you remember the good things better than you remember the bad ones, in some cases, depending on the experience. But this is different because there are so many hormones involved in it. All right, so take that same woman who's not pregnant, who has no hormones to protect her or to cushion to dampen her memory. Hook that device up to her and crank it up on high as if she were actually in labor, and she is gonna scream and flail the same way that a guy would, with no protection, no biological, and let's be honest here, giving them credit for the tolerance of that when guys don't even have the parts to do it is like saying, look how good they are at breastfeeding, guys can't do that. Well, of course not. They're built for it. Their bodies are designed for it. That aside, Hook up those prongs to them. No protection, no hormones, no chemicals, and crank it up. That is probably going to be the best birth control because they're actually going to remember the pain. They'll experience it as if they were really doing it, and they're never going to have kids, or at least they're going to think about it very carefully before they do. That is the equivalent of MGTOW for men because they get to see that experience either through someone else's eyes or with a clear mind, without any hormones affecting their judgment, without any chemicals dampening their memory of the pain. They can see it clearly, and it's the best kind of sobriety that a person can have, to see all of these different people's experiences, to see their pain and recognize it for what it is without the influence of the woman throwing all his hormones out of whack. It's clarity, but it's never that simple, is it? Try telling any addict, try telling an alcoholic that they drink too much. But from their perspective, they don't, because they're still living in that experience. They're still riding on that high, or the buzz, whatever you want to call it, from whatever their choice drug is. They normally have to have their first DUI before they'll admit that they even have a problem. I used to hire a woman years ago. It was easy work, like lawn work and stuff. And I could always tell when she was high on something, because she would spend, say, 2 or 3 hours like sorting Tupperwares, some kind of remedial task, and then would come up and say, "Look, Marcel, look at how much I got done. Didn't I work really, really fast?" And it was something that should have taken her like 5 minutes. She had no connection between what she was accomplishing and how much that her, induced state was affecting her ability to function. That experience for her, the high for her, overrode her ability to recognize it. Those blue pill guys don't see how negatively what they're going through is really affecting them. They can't. I mean, I can sit back with them and say, okay, so you've wasted the last 11 years of your life. You've lost almost all of your money. You have nothing to show for it. You're going to be spending money on her for the next 18 years because of kids. And I can say all of this stuff, but it doesn't register. His eyes are dilated. He's completely wired. He doesn't get it because in his mind, he thinks that he's doing right. He thinks he's doing a good job with his life. He can't see it from another perspective until he gets off of the drug long enough to step back and look at it from a clear mind. One of the things about myself, and I realized this right around the age where people started trying to pressure me to go out and drink and party and stuff, is that I am terrified of losing control of myself, losing my grip on reality. I don't want a substance or an experience to have so much power over me that I can't say no. So if there's ever any situation where I'm being influenced by something, I fight against it. Almost constantly, I maintain control of myself. It's just the way that I'm wired. And that may have something to do with my red pill nature, the idea of a woman influencing me, controlling me, taking away that part of me, my will, the thing that defines me as an individual. The idea of it just makes me sick. It's my life, and I want to control my life, define my own destiny. I don't want to wake up 12 years from now and realize that I've wasted all of it. That's a really scary concept, and that happens to guys every single day. Anyway, that's about all I have to say on this topic. Let me know if you think I'm onto something. Is this common knowledge, or is the concept of memory loss during relationships a real thing, at least from the perspective of the level of emotional trauma that guys are willing to put up with or that they go through? Comment down below, and if you want to hear more content like mine, like and subscribe.